Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jaya mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess of learning, and onto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Today we are reading from the third canto entitled The Status Quo. We are reading from the first chapter, questioned by Vidura, and we are at text 42. Text 42. You can repeat after me. Sahaham.
Saham.
Are. Did you
Are.
get books? One is there and then one is here.
Okay.
Martya.
Martya.
Vidambanena.
Vidambanena.
Drisha.
Disha.
Ninam.
Nina.
Chalayata.
Chalayata.
Vidatu.
Vidatu.
Na.
Na.
Anya.
Anya.
Upalakshya.
Upalakshya.
Padavim.
Padavim.
Pashadat.
Shana.
Sharami.
Sharami.
Pashyan.
Pashan.
Gata Vishmaya.
Gatavishmaya.
Atram.
Atra.
Soham Arer Martya Vidambanena.
Soham Hare Martya Vidambanena.
Disho Ninam Chalayato Vidatu.
Drisho Ninam Chalayato Vidatu.
Nanyo Palakshya Padavim Prashadat.
Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Sharami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra.
Charami Pashan Gato Vishmayatra.
Soham Hare Martya Vidambanena.
Soham Hare Martya Vidambanena.
Disho Ninam Chalayato Vidatu.
Disho Ninam Chalayato Vidatu.
Nanyo Palakshya Padavim Prashadat.
Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Charami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra.
Charami Pashan Gata Vishmayotra.
Soham Hare Martya Vidambanena.
Soham Hare Martya Vidambanena.
Disho Ninam Chalayato Vidatu.
Disho Ninam Chalayato Vidatu.
Nanyo Palakshya Padavim Prasadat.
Nayo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Charami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra.
Charami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra. Soham Harematya Vidambanena.
Soham Harematya Vidambanena.
Vishoninam Chalayato Vidatu.
Vishoninam Shalayato Vidatu.
Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Nalo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Ram Pashyam Gata Vismayotra.
Ram Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra.
Soham Harer Marta Vidambanena.
Soham Harematya Vidambanena.
Risho Nirma Chalayato Vidhatu.
Tishoninam Shalayato Vidatu.
Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Charami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra.
Charami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra. Soham Harematya Vidambanena. Tishoninam Shalayato Vidatu. Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat. Charami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra.
Soham Harematya Vidambanena.
Soham Harematya Vidambanena.
Tishoninam Shalayato Vidatu.
Tishoninam Shalayato Vidatu.
Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Charami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra.
Charami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra. Someone online would like to chant the verse?
Soham Harer Martya Vidambanena.
Soham Harematya Vidambanena.
Drosho Nirnam Chalayato Vidhatu.
Trishoninam Shalayato Vidatu.
Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Nanyo Palaksha Padavim Prasadat.
Charami Pashyam Gata Vismayotra.
Charami Pashyam Gata Vishmayotra. Sahaham.
Saham.
Therefore I.
Therefore I.
Hare.
Hare.
Of the personality of Godhead.
Of the personality of Godhead.
Martya.
Martya.
In this mortal world.
In this mortal world.
Vidambanena.
Vidambanena.
Without being recognized.
Without being recognized.
Visha.
Visha.
On sight.
On sight.
Ninam.
Nanam.
Of the people in general.
Of the people in general.
Shalayata.
Shalayata.
Bewildering.
Bewildering.
Viduta. Vidatu. In order to do it.
In order to do it.
Now.
Not.
Not. Anya.
Other.
Upalaksha.
Upalaksha.
Seen by others.
Seen by others.
Padavim.
Padavim.
Glories.
Glories.
Prashadat. By the grace of.
By the grace of.
Sharami.
Sharam.
Do travel. Pasyan.
Pasya.
By seeing.
By seeing.
Gata Vishmaya.
Gata Vishmaya.
Without doubt.
Without doubt.
Atra.
Atra.
In this matter.
In this matter.
Translation. I am not astonished at this. Having traveled over the world without being seen by others, the activity of the personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others. But I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respect. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Also, he was the brother of Dhritarashtra. Vidura was completely different. By the grace of Lord Krishna, he was not foolish like his brothers, and thus his brothers' association could not influence him. Dhritarashtra and his materialistic sons wanted to falsely lord it over the world by dint of their own strength. The Lord encouraged them in this, and thus they became more and more bewildered. But Vidura wanted to achieve sincere devotional service of the Lord, and therefore become a soul absolutely surrendered to the absolute personality of Godhead. He could realize this in the progress of his pilgrim journey, and thus he was freed from all doubts. He was not at all sorry to be bereft of his earth and home, because he now had experienced that dependence on the mercy of the Lord is a greater freedom than so-called freedom at home. A person should not be in a renounced order of life unless he is firmly convinced of being protected by the Lord. This stage of life is explained in Bhagavad Gita as Abhayam Sattva Samshidi. Every living entity is factually completely dependent on the mercy of the Lord, but unless one is in the pure state of existence, he cannot be established in this position. This stage of dependence is called Sattva Samshudi, or purification of one's existence. The result of such a purification is exhibited in fearlessness. A devotee of the Lord, who is called Narayan Para, is never afraid of anything because he is always aware of the fact that the Lord protects him in all circumstances. With this conviction, Vidura traveled alone, and he was not seen or recognized by any friend or foe. Thus, he enjoyed freedom of life without obligation to the many duties of the world. When Lord Sri Krishna was personally present in the mortal world, in his eternal blissful form of Shyama Sundar, those who were not pure devotees of the Lord could not recognize him or know his glories. Avajananti mamuda manusim tanum ashritam. Bhagavad Gita 9:11. Is always bewildering to the non-devotees, but he is always seen by the devotee by dint of their pure devotional service to him. Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyanachala Shalakaya Shakshu Unmiritam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Kadamayan Dadati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavam Shah Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Shah He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopisha Gopika Kanta, Radha Kanta Namostute, Tapta Kanchana Gourange, Radhe Vrindavaneshwari, Vishabhanu Sute Devi, Pranamami Hari Priye, Vansha Kalpatarubhyacha, Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namam Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharini, Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paskacha.
Isha Harine.
So it's canto, the third canto, chapter 1, text 42. I am not astonished at this, having traveled over the world without being seen by others. The activity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others, but I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respects. So, Hare Krishna. We are with Vidura, continuing our journey with Vidura, the pilgrim journey. And I wanted to read a little bit back, 2 verses back to understand. The previous verse, we had the class with Tushta Krishna Prabhu, very enlivening class. And he said, "Oh, gentle one, I simply lament for he, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my own house. Also, I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own son." So here we can be like confused. Why will a pure devotee of the Lord be very mistreated by his brother in that way? And kicked out of his house, and he only wanted the well-being of Dhritarashtra. He only wanted the well-being of the palace, of the kingdom. So, like the question may come, like why this such a bad things happens to such a good person, and we may become bewildered. A lot of people stop believing in God as soon as there is something happening that's not aligned with their plan of what a God-centered person will have in their life. A lot of people they believe in God. They believe in God until something hits them, like maybe they lose someone or something happened that they cannot compute. How can I go to church every Sunday and believe in God and give so much of my life to God for that to happen to me? And then Vidura say, I am not astonished at this. He's not, because by the grace of the Lord, he said, by the grace of the Lord, I can see better. I can see the greatness of the Lord. Yeah, and I have traveled around. You have traveled incognito. You have been on pilgrimage. You have been in his journey. We can imagine he met so many people. He met so many types of people, not simply saintly people, but anyone. And then he could see like happiness, distress, riches, poverty. It's like the story of Lord Buddha, isn't it? He was so protected in his youth, in his childhood. He was so protected that for him life was happy, satisfying. Everything was available, everything was clean. He had servants, like that was his life. And one day he decided, I'm going to get out. So he got out of the palace in his youth, and he went around and he saw poverty, and he saw suffering, and he saw pain, and he saw death, and he saw people crying, people in agony, people in fear. And then he realized that, it was not all like in my palace. So similarly, Vidura, he traveled and he saw it all, and he's not bewildered. He's not bewildered by war. He's not bewildered by pestilence. He's not bewildered by suffering, by pain, because by the grace of the Lord, he knows that everything is perfectly aligned and perfectly in place. And in the purport, such a beautiful purport, there is so much to the purport that I feel very inadequate of even like starting to speak about the depths of Srila Prabhupada's words. And so he starts like that Vidura was not as blind as his brother. And we know his brother was blind physically, and he was also blind spiritually. And because he was blind spiritually, he wanted power. He wanted dominion over people. He wanted land. He wanted a bigger kingdom, and he wanted his son to inherit the kingdom and be the rulers, and he wanted all that. And interestingly, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada said, and Krishna gave it to them. He allows that to happen. He allowed Ravana to be so powerful that he even dig a tunnel, I think, through the earth to go to Brazil. There is, the proofs that Ravana was in Brazil from Sri Lanka, from Ceylon, really. He gave power, like the little Prahlad Maharaj. We spoke about the Prahlad Maharaj yesterday, and I love that part of the pastime. Like Prahlad Maharaj he wasn't killed by any of the scheme of his father. Like his father tried to burn him and poison him and put him in a pit of snakes. He tried to put him under the foot of an elephant. He tried to kill him in so many ways. And so he's like, and you're still worshiping Vishnu. Where do you get your power? And Prahlad Maharaj said, I'm the same place than you do. But Hiranyakashipu, he felt like, I get my power from my own intelligence. I get my power from my own austerity, by my own effort, because I'm so great. That's why I get my power. But the little Prahlad knew that. No, even if you had done all those austerity, all those sacrifice, and even with your intelligence, if the Lord didn't want you to have power, you will not have any. And so it's like interesting. We have a lot of conversation lately with Ladini, but that we think we are in control, but we cannot even control what's closest to us, which is our body, isn't it? We have no control of our body. If a function of the body wants to stop, we have no control whatsoever. How can we think that we can control anything else when we have proof every day that even our urges, like all the urges of the body, like my nose this morning, I was offering incense. So I was offering incense to the deities, and my nose, was dripping. And I didn't want to blow my nose because I wanted to stay clean. And at the same time, I had no control over the drops that was coming out of my nose. No control whatsoever. I have no control when I go to the bathroom. I have, it's just like that. We have no control. Everything is done under, bigger agencies than us. It's just about being realistic. Spiritual life, it's about being truthful, honest, and realistic. That, no, I have no control. And no, there is not much satisfaction in this life. It takes a lot of honesty. So here, like Srila Prabhupada speak about Dhritarashtra, and he had a scheme, like that, and the Lord allows that. And he's not as lucky as Vidura. Vidura got the mercy of the Lord. And I really like that Vidura acknowledged that. He acknowledged that he's not bewildered by the pain that was caused to him by his family members. He's not confused about that. He's not confused. And he said, I'm not confused by the grace of the Lord. Like, I'm not confused because Krishna is give me something. So we can also see, by the grace of the Lord, we are here today speaking Bhagavatam. By the grace of the Lord, we know Bhagavatam, which is so amazing, magical. By the grace of the Lord, we are in contact with the pure devotee, with Bhutali, like Namah Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prestaya, Bhutali, Krishna Prestaya is a representative of Krishna on earth. And so by the grace of the Lord only are we in contact with Srila Prabhupada. And how merciful is the Lord that he allow us to somehow or other get in contact with Srila Prabhupada. And how unfortunate, in fact, are the people who are not in contact with Srila Prabhupada. No matter how rich they are, no matter how powerful they are, no matter how many degrees they have, no matter how much they have a beautiful family, they are very unfortunate if they are not in contact with Srila Prabhupada, with chanting Hare Krishna, with worshipping the Lord, practicing devotional service, hearing and chanting about the Lord. And Queen Kunti also, she prayed in the prayer of Queen Kunti are very famous, and there is one prayer where she says, like, it's very bewildering that you come on earth as a human being and you move amongst us, and still you are unborn, and still, like it's very bewildering. And naturally, we are going to be confused by the pastime of the Lord, because as long as we are conditioned in those 9 dots, and the Lord never really act within those 9 dots, we are going to be confused, bewildered, and not really understand the pastime of the Lord, or not really understand the creation of the Lord, and how the creation is serving us. How the creation, no matter what's happened in this creation, is benevolent, that there is no mistake. And then that leads to the soul being surrendered. The soul being surrendered. A lot of what Srila Prabhupada share in his purport is about surrender, and it's about dependence on the Lord, and it's about fearlessness, and they all go together. And specifically, Srila Prabhupada speak about two of the 6 items of surrender. He speak about, and mainly he speak about maintenance, like dependence, maintenance. And what he says very, very interesting is like, when we will know independence, we will reach independence only when we are fully dependent on the Lord. So independence is only reached by full dependence on the Lord, because as long as we are dependent on anything else but the mercy of the Lord, then we are going to be in fear. We are going to be in fear. We are going to be in a kunta, in a world of anxiety and fear. Why? Because as long as we put our dependence in fallible soldiers, in temporary existence, then we are not going to be protected. We are not going to be protected. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada give an example, like, you can have the best physician, the best doctor, the best hospital, all the ways that you have, still you may get sick, stay sick, and die, regardless the qualification of the doctor. And the parents can be very great parents, once he said. The parents can be very, very great parents, wonderful parents, and still they don't protect the child. The child can get into bad association. And like like Kinvena, we spoke about Kinvena yesterday, were like torturing his schoolmates. And after he became the king and he was torturing his citizens. And the father was a pure devotee. He was a good father. So even a father and a good mother and a good father, they cannot protect their progeny. We cannot, as long as we're finding that in our peace, in our comfort, that comfort, that peace, that sense of security depend on anything material, then because anything material is temporary and so limited, then we are going to be in fear. And the only way to come to fearlessness is 100% dependence on the Lord. And when we come to a place of full dependence on the Lord, we know, like one of item of surrender is to know with conviction that the Lord is protecting me. To know with conviction the Lord is protecting me. Sarva dharmam parityaja mamikam saranad vaja. Aham svam sarva papebhyo mokshaya shalvi. Ma suchaha. Do not fear. I will protect you. Just surrender unto me. And surrender unto me and protection doesn't necessarily mean that nothing is going to happen. Now, many things are going to happen in the Pilgrim's Progress. The Pilgrim's Progress means along the way, so much is going to happen. Why? Because as long as we are embodied, we have luggage, big luggage on our back that through our journey we need to shed. We need to let them go. And how we let them go? By the help of the Lord. How? Through his agency, his pure devotee, his beautiful, loving servant of Durga Devi. She is so kind. She knows exactly how each of us are supposed to let go of the burden that we are carrying in this lifetime. The burden starting with this body, starting with this life. It's so much burden. We have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to defend, we have to, protect ourselves and eating, sleeping, mating, like defending, like all those things. They are so burdening. We are always like, okay, where is food? Where is the shelter? And that is due to this temporary body. As long as we are identified with those temporary body, as long as we depend on ourselves, then they are going to be burdened. They are going to drive our hamster wheel. They are going to drive our hamster wheel, and we are going to continue. And then by the mercy of the Lord, Vidura is very lucky, because his situation, being insulted by his brother, led him to be in the street. I'm in the street. I'm a homeless in the street. Not even he didn't have even his water bottle. He didn't have anything, maybe only his clothes on his body. And then he was free. That's freedom, pure freedom, free to depend on the Lord. I was lucky enough, by the grace of the Lord. I had an experience many years ago, I think it was 90 or 91. On my way to Japan, I was a missionary. I was a brahmacharini, meaning a single monk, or like, anyway. A nun. I was a nun. I really like that. And I was a brahmacharini. So as a brahmacharini, I didn't have any plan, ever. And I like not having plan. I didn't have any plan. And so I was just doing what my authority was telling me. So at one point, my authority told me, you go to Japan for a mission. You have a mission there. It was nice because I had an internal mission and an external mission. So I really liked that. I had a secret mission and I had another mission. And I really like having secret missions. It's funny. It was fun. And so I was sent to Japan. So the only thing I asked for, I traveled for 2 years. And then I became a devotee, and I never went back to France or to my family or to anyone back home. for years. It was like maybe 6 years that I didn't see any of my family members. And so I said, well, on the way to Japan, I like to stop, because I like to stop in France. So I stopped in France, and then I didn't really spend time with my family. I went to the Paris temple. I did go to spend some time with my family, but it was difficult. It was difficult. I was such a nun at the time. I was always wearing sari until like devotional clothing, and I was just a nun. And so being with family members, it was difficult after so many years of not having that kind of interaction. So I was in Paris temple, and when I was in Paris temple, it just happened that Padayatra was passing by. And so there was a Padayatra that left London. Padayatra, I will explain what it is. Left London and was supposed to arrive in Moscow in the centennial of Srila Prabhupada, which was 1986. 1996. Yeah. So that was Padayatra. So what's Padayatra? Padayatra is devotees walking, pada, and a yatra, like a temple. It's a walking temple. And so we had, the Padayatra had, I say we because I really wanted to be part of it. But anyway, the Padayatra, they had an ox cart with beautiful deities, named deities of Gaunitai, like maybe about that size, like a few feet. And they were walking every day. And there was no finance, no bank account, no finance, no food storage, nothing. Just walking. Maybe I think we had a few tents. We had a few tents. Anyway, so by the time I was in France, they already went from England. It took them they crossed France, they were to Spain, and they were on way back. And then they went from France to Belgium, on the way to Moscow. And they arrived in Moscow. And so I said, wow, this is exactly what I want to do with my life. I want to walk and chant, and that's all I want to do. And distribute books. On the way, we were distributing books, and it was like Harinam all day. And we'll stop, and then we'll stop in villages. In Europe, there is still villages. Village life is really nice. Like the village are all built around churches. So there is a church, and then it's in America it's square things, but in Europe it's more like circular, like you have the church in the middle and you have a first row of
all roads lead to the center.
Yeah, like it's around, like the house are put around this church, and then there is a plaza. Usually there is a church, and then the village plaza, and then the road are kind of a spike of the bicycle. So every night we will stop in a village, and then we will set up some kind of pandal, like a big tent. Oh yes, we had a big tent. And then we'll invite the villager and people to come, and we had a program every evening. And remember, we didn't have a bank account, and we didn't have a food storage with us. We had spice and ghee. We had spice and ghee and pots, so that we had. And so as we were walking every day, we were begging. And I remember during the time I was there, because we were changing country, we needed a sign in the language of the country. We needed a round sign like that. And same thing. And somehow I'm the one who I went to a store and I said, well, we are traveling, we are monk, blah, blah. I don't know what I said. And it didn't matter because the person, he did the sign, he gave us a sign, like he gave us a sign, it was a donation. We are having so much flour to offer to the deities. And then we will gather along the way, people will give us donation. Sometimes we will buy rice, maybe sometimes we will buy things, but also people will give us vegetable and everything we needed. By the time we were stopping at night, we had everything to create our little pandal and our our program at night, and it was impactful. For me, it was extremely impactful. I had already my own experience traveling for 2 years without anything, and seeing that I didn't need anything. Like I was fed every day, and I was lodged every day. Even so, I never rented a hotel or went to a youth hostel or anything for 2 years. I traveled, and every day I ate 3 meals a day, and every night I slept. I remember sometime in the Caribbean island, I slept on a hammock. So I didn't have a roof over my head, but it was okay. Because in the Caribbean island, you know, it's really nice weather, besides the summer when there is a rainy season. But anyway, so I had already that experience to draw on. And during Padayatra, because I had Krishna, it became more obvious to me. It had a really deep impact that the Lord is taking care of us. That He's taking care of us the same way He's taking care of the elephant in the jungle. The elephant wherever they are, elephant, Prabhupada says, they eat ton of food, like literally ton. And to maintain an elephant is very, very expensive. And all the elephants all over Africa and other countries, they are all maintained by Krishna. They are all maintained by Krishna. And if the elephants are maintained by Krishna, what to speak about Krishna's devotees? They are going to be maintained. So Vidura, in his pilgrim, he was experiencing that. He was experiencing complete dependence on Krishna. And he was experiencing Krishna giving to him and providing for him whatever he needs. Like the 6 Goswami of Vrindavan, they were known to sleep under a different tree every night. And of course, they were wish-fulfilling trees. But for most people, they were trees. And then all their needs were satisfied. So for us to remember that we are not fed by our work. We need to work. Krishna, Prabhupada said we need to work. So the elephant, they work. The lion, he said, the lion works the hardest. The lion and the tiger, because they are meat eaters, they need to work the harder. And I can see that. How people who eat meat, they need to work harder. They are more anxiety, and they feel like, I need money, I need a big bank account. So yes, if Krishna can maintain the animals, or to speak about his devotees, so as we remember that, then naturally we are going to do our duty without attachment, with no fruitive mentality. Fruitive mentality is like, I do something to have a fruit. And Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita said, you're not entitled to the fruit of your action. What? I'm not entitled to the fruit of my action? Then why bother? Why do anything if I'm not? But then he said also, you have to work. Both are true. It's like that in spiritual life. Like our mind tends to think of black and white in duality. You know, these go together. We're thinking black and white, duality, and cause and effect. That's how we are conditioned. Our conditioning is black and white, duality, and cause and effect. And that's how we are conditioned. And in the spiritual world, there is no such a thing as cause and effect. You know, like there is a cause of all causes, Krishna. And of course, he creates a world where there is cause and effect from the causal ocean. And in a Mahatattva, all the effects are created from the cause, the effect are created in Mahatattva. And at the same time, we have an opportunity right now to step out of the material conditioning and to be fully dependent on Krishna, and through that, become fearless. Pajaure mana, Shri Nanda Nandana, Habaya Charana Ravindare. Oh, mine. Just serve the Lord's feet of Krishna. Because by serving the Lord's feet of Krishna, one becomes fearless. Like just become fearless. So, one thing is that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I want to read a few things. I don't know, like, oh God, it's always like that. Anyway, I want to read a song written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur that Srila Prabhupada gave us. And it is in that part of Sharanagati, which is about maintenance and protection. So I want to read it. The name of the song is To Me Sarveshvareshvara. And I'm not going to sing it this time. We say, O useful son of King of Raja, you are Lord of all lords. Lord of all lords. So no matter what lord we think we have, is a fallible soldier. So as long as we take shelter of fallible soldier, then we are going to be in anxiety, of course, because they are fallible. They are going to fail in some ways, and ultimately they are going to disappear through the process of death. According to your will, creation and destruction take place in the universe. According to your will, Lord Brahma creates, and according to your will, Lord Vishnu maintains. Lord Shiva destroys in similar obedience to your will. And by your wish, Maya creates the prison house of this world. By your will, the living beings take birth and die. By your will, they meet with prosperity or wounds, happiness and sorrow. The tiny soul bound up by Maya vainly struggles in the fetters of worldly desire. Without your sanction, is unable to do anything. You are my protector and maintainer. Except for your lotus feet, there is no other hope for me. Vidura knew that. Except for your lotus feet, there is no hope for us. No hope. We have no control. No matter what we do, we have no control. Or a tiny bit of control. Now I have given up all confidence in my own strength and endeavor. So that's a good way to lose confidence. You know, in a sense, in the Sattva courses, we support people to step out of the false identification to come to confidence. But then on the other side of that is losing confidence, 100% losing all confidence in my strengths. I have no confidence in my own strengths, my own intelligence, my own power, my own capability. Now I depend solely on your will. Bhaktivinoda is most poor, and his pride has been leveled. Now he lived and dies in accordance to your will. Hare Krishna, I'm going to stop here. Jai Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Ki Jai. I wanted to read from the prayer of Queen Kunti and Bhagavatam and so many things, and Bhagavad Gita, but that will be for another day. So hamarer martya vidambanena rishoninam chalayato vidatu nanyo palakshya padavim prashadach charami pashyam gata vishmayotra. I am not astonished at this. Having traveled over the world without being seen by others, the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which are like those of a man in this mortal world, are bewildering to others. But I know of his greatness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respect. So Vidura is happy in all respect. Even so he has been kicked out of the palace, even so he's with nothing, he's just traveling. In his pilgrim progress, he let go of all baggage, he's free, and is 100% independent and free. Hare Krishna. Any comments, questions, challenges? Yes, Yajendra Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So there's something that I'm looking at. It seems like there is perhaps a contradiction that is somewhat superficial when it comes to being in Krishna consciousness. There seems to be some conveying towards simplicity here, toward possessionlessness, a type of freedom that involves not being so engaged in responsibilities. And like, I've got this mortgage, I've got this project, I've got this family. So there seems, this is not an accusation of the Dura or a judgment of Krishna consciousness. I'd say so, because on an external level, it could seem more simple. Like I'm just free, just thinking about myself, where I sleep. It just sort of, there's just sort of a letting go of freedom with that experience. And then on the other hand, in Krishna consciousness, there's this idea of taking on responsibility, of thinking of others and wanting to facilitate others, finding out the holy name, Krishna consciousness. And that can, on a practical level, often involve having a certain, position, material position, where one is, not just wandering freely, but taking responsibilities, plugging into systems and relationships that can kind of seem entangling. I don't want to necessarily say it's materially entangling, but it can be, even in pursuing devotional service, one can find challenges in the circumstances that challenge the Krishna consciousness because it has more involvement with responsibilities, relationships, etc. And so coming back to why I say it's superficial is because in the essential thing the devotee is doing, like Srila Prabhupada, wow, at some point, he's still Srila Prabhupada, so absorbed in Krishna consciousness, so wanting to carry on the work of his spiritual master. And yet he's in a very, very simple state, just sort of doing everything himself here or there, almost rupee-less himself, just to carry on. And then, a few years later, he's founded a significant international movement, not with like a few people around them, but like thousands and thousands of disciples engaging, and temples and traveling, and meeting schedules, and so, we can see that the deep and center point of one's Krishna consciousness is transcendental to, is life complex? Am I living in the palace? Do I have responsibilities, relations with relatives? Or I'm really just kind of me and Krishna and what's happening in the day. So I do kind of wonder, beyond my own sort of answer to the wonderings, is there an ideal, or is there a standard, or is there any type of comment on how we position ourselves to maximize our Krishna consciousness? And is there an ideal goal in terms of, say, simplicity? Like, is there an ideal that maybe I have some material propensity at a certain stage of my life, more passion, and so I'm more involved, but I want to actually come to a place of, just being very, very simple in my Krishna consciousness. Just to think of Krishna, speak about Krishna, but really not have as much engagement.
Thank you, Gyajana, for as I understand your question, it seems like, okay, you're looking at seemingly a contradiction between like, okay, simplicity and letting go of material things, and you say responsibilities, and then on the other hand, being very responsible to take on a lot in order to spread Srila Prabhupada's movement.
I'm trying to perceive something like, so, okay, well, Krishna gives something that's simple, maybe they haven't over endeavored for it, and then there's Yukta Vairagya, gauge that. But there's maybe another part of the process too, where maybe we want to be Krishna conscious and share Krishna consciousness, but there's also some material compulsion.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Yeah. Well, you know what I'm hearing in what you're saying is like for the devotees, there is never letting go of responsibilities. You know, you say you started with being simple, and then letting go of things, letting go of responsibility, and just focusing on myself. And my sense is that that's never there for Vidura or Srila Prabhupada. They have never a sense of letting go of responsibility. Vidura, the circumstance was like for years, for decades, his desire was to be in a forest. His desire was to focus on Krishna and be be free the way he did. That's why when the reversal came, he just took an opportunity. So, oh, that's Krishna want me to do that. But Vidura was doing his duty and responsibly doing his duty. So whether, like we let go of material possession, like the Padayatra, let go of all material possession, no bank accounts, no even a stock of food, and the responsibility for Srila Prabhupada's movement, the responsibility to preach is always there. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada, when he took sannyas, he had no money. He was pauper in the street of Calcutta, in the street of Delhi. He was begging. And when he was receiving money, he will print back to Godhead. He will not even feed himself. His god brother will see him and say, come and stay with me, or stay in my ashram, come, I'll give you a meal. But on his own, he wasn't even focused on his own self. So like, okay, so that's the mentality that Srila Prabhupada had. And then Krishna gave more and more to Srila Prabhupada because he knew Prabhupada is not using anything for his own sake. Still, 100%, he was owning and carrying responsibility to carry out the order of his spiritual master. So otherwise is Marketa Varga, like the renunciation of the monkeys. The monkeys, they live in a forest too, and they eat berries and they are naked and all that. But yes, they are irresponsible. So it's not about ever letting go of responsibility. The letting go of responsibility is false renunciation, false simplicity for the sake of avoiding often. So it's like, no, fully being responsible, and then knowing my service, knowing like, okay, what's my service at this time? Maybe it is to walk, and I'm sure Vidura enlightened so many people on the way that he never lost track of his service. He probably prayed every day for Dhritarashtra and his sons. He inquired from people about what was happening for 30 years. By the time we are hearing him, he was traveling already for 30 years. So, and my sense is that Vidura never let go of his responsibilities and duties. The form, it took a different form, because of circumstance. He left the palace. So what's one's responsibility towards giving up or keeping, staying in a very palatial house or living under a tree is going to be aligned with their service. And then that's full renunciation. Full renunciation is when whatever I do, simplicity, renunciation, or accumulation and growth is connected with my service and only my service. Once there was a story of Lord Chaitanya, he sent Gadadhar Pandit to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And he sent him, he said, okay, go to Pundarik Vidyanidhi and accept him as your guru. Accept him as your guru. So Gadadhar Pandit, he went there. And he arrived at Pundarik Vidyanidhi's palace. And it was a palace. Everything was marble. And all the decoration were gold and emerald, and it was like everything was extremely opulent, an opulence that nobody knows right now. And then when Pundarik Vidyanidhi came for the first encounter with Gadadhar Pandit, he had his hair were oiled, and he was only wearing like silk, rose silk, very thick clothes, and he had jewelry and pearls and all that. And then he came at the time of his lunch, so Pundarik Vidyanidhi sat, and then his servant, he had many servants, they all came serving in golden plates. And so Gadadhar Pandit, he didn't even ask question. It's just like he saw all that and he was so grossed out. Yuck! Why is Lord Chaitanya did that to me? So he went back to Lord Chaitanya and he said, why did you do that? Why did you ask me to go and see Pundarik Vidyanidhi? And Lord Chaitanya said, you didn't see? You didn't see how like deep he is? And then Lord Chaitanya, he gave him a few verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam. He said, now you go to a Pundarik Vidyanidhi, and as soon as you see him, you recite those verses. And there were verses about the pastime of Krishna. And so Gadadhar Pandit, he went back, and then he found Pundarik Vidyanidhi in his table, marble table, enjoying his meal in golden plates, and his servant, and his oil hair, and all that. And then Gadadhar Pandit started to recite the verse about the pastime of Krishna and his relationship with his pure devotee in Vrindavan. And then Pundarik Vidyanidhi all of a sudden began to tremble. And after a very short time, in fact, he was on the ground, and all his servants were preventing him from hurting himself because he was so lost in ecstatic love of Krishna that he couldn't be contained. His ecstasy couldn't be contained. And then Pundarik Vidyanidhi surrendered, and he completely offered obeisance. Gadadhar Pandit offered obeisances to Pundarik Vidyanidhi. And he felt so foolish because, like you say, it's external. All that is external. It's external. Like a devotee is not attached to his gold plate. He wasn't attached to his gold plate. He was attached to Krishna, to hear about Krishna. However, because of his service, and I'm clear about Pundarik Vidyanidhi, he was probably a governor, and he needed to have that position in order to, emanate respect from his citizens and have a certain standard, and also to give away, in charity, in big opulence. That was his responsibility. Because of his responsibilities, then he stayed in that opulence because he was fitting with his duty. Performing his prescribed duties means that, yes, you continue to accept all that, even so you don't care about it. And so it's like a devotee doesn't care about the gold plate or the marble, and the devotee doesn't care either to be under a tree and be a mendicant. He's not attached to either. He just knows what his service is. I hope it responds to your question.
Yeah, wonderful, beautiful response.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Any other comment, questions about fearlessness or surrender, dependence on the Lord? Always knowing that I'm under the protection of the Lord. Masuchaha, no fear. Surrender unto me. I will protect you. I will protect you from all fear. I will protect you from all fear. So whatever happened,
Mm.
whatever happened in our life, the stock market crumbled. No fear. The Lord is taking care of me. A disease come upon us, a deadly disease. No fear. What's the difference between a deadly disease and no disease? No fear. Our children, something happened to our children, no fear. They are Krishna's children. They are not mine. They never be mine. They are just temporary under my responsibility.
I add something quickly. In the verse, when we were going over the word for word, when came to the word prasadat, I noticed that it reminded me a little bit of the word prashadam, which I normally think of as like mercy. And it was translated as by the grace of, which is similar, mercy or blessing. And where it used that word in the translation was, but I know of his graceness by his grace, and thus I am happy in all respects. And so I was in a way interpreting that in this particular situation, he's transcendental, but he is happy in this situation. And that is like prashada, that's the blessing, that is the grace at which he doesn't necessarily mean he's attached to that situation, but he's in that situation, whatever situation the Lord has put him in, he's feeling blessed and happy in that. And that's sort of like, wow, prasadam tastes good. We really appreciate it.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and
it's relationship.
And that's very connected with the principle that Srila Prabhupada highlighted in his purport about depending on the protection of the Lord. That a devotee always, and it's one item of surrender, know that the Lord is giving grace. He's pouring love over me all the time. And then no matter what's happened, that's my experience. And then if it's my experience, then happiness is always there. That it's the grace of the Lord. And then I appreciate what you say about prasadam, as we know it, in the form of Krishna's remnants. And a pure devotee, he sees the same. He sees the grace of the Lord. He doesn't see food. There's no food in the life of a devotee. There is no need to maintain the body with food. There is just the grace all around, abundance of grace all the time. Yeah, thank you.
I just mentioned I had seen the hand up in some chats.
Okay.
Just so you're right.
Thank you for your class, Hare Krishna. I was very impacted by your class. Last night we went, Dr. Nico and I went to do Harinam Sankirtan for 4 hours. We stayed at Depot Park, and on the way there, I was expressing pain I've been experiencing, wishing I had like a big Sankirtan party to go with, and I feel like I'm not upset with any of my association in Bhakti Yoga. I'm not upset with anyone in my community because I don't know anyone's life, but I'm still like, those are the people I would think of to come. And I want to be like a group. I want to be a group of like 10 people, this is like on my drive there. And I was also speaking to Garuda before we drove, like this desire to be, I was like, we could, and I told Nico and Garuda, I'm like, we could just like be like shredding apart our identities, and like it could be like so far out, and like we could like serve so many people, and like we could just bring, I was just like frustrated with some pain, and like imagine like if that was the center of our life, and like we had a group, and like it was like nothing else mattered, and this is like where my mind and my emotion were going, and when we went, it was just two of us sitting on the blanket, and like right, we were gonna say like in the beginning prayer. Oh my God, to me, yeah, that prayer, I don't know the name of it, but we just were about to start, and then devotees walk by, and they're like, "Hey," and we didn't start, like, but you know, of course they're welcome to join us, and they're like, "Are you guys meeting up with the Harinam here?" The other devotees were coming, and we're like, we didn't know about it, and they're like, but we had an extra blanket for their family, and they're like, well, we're here for that. I'm like, well, they felt like this was the place to meet, so they stayed with us, and I, was like leading with the harmonium, and so I was like singing, and more devotees came, and they didn't ask, can I join you, because it was already like joined, but they had equipment and like put a microphone up to me. And like they mic'd up the harmonium, and like there was a bench, they were done. It was like I was surrounded by devotees. I felt like that's what I want. It's like what I wanted. I was like so touched. And I was laughing, like I'm like, amplified, and they don't even have to ask, can I microphone you? It was like,
you didn't have to buy the microphone.
This is like your microphone, let's do this, like this is happening. And I mean, they weren't thinking that, but they were, it was natural and like calm for them, but I was like, and then there was a blanket behind me, and I was like surrounded by the devotees, leading them, and I was like so happy and surprised, and like it wasn't what I envisioned, exact people, my friends, in Krishna consciousness, but it was like exactly what I wanted, and I counted, it was 10 people. At the time I counted, it was 10, even more came, but I was like, I want like 10 people, and then it was 10 people, and it like transformed my whole story and my consciousness, like I really don't need my exact Krishna conscious as peers with me, but I do need to do Harinam Sankirtan, and I could join them sometimes, and I'm gonna like get used to going on my own, because like I'm like nothing brings me greater like joy, like it just like I feel a little embarrassed, but there's just nothing that really like touches me or makes me feel like really, really high than outreach. And I just never let myself realize that, how much it's my service. All night and all morning chanting, I'm envisioning like this like super perfect cart, like it pops up and it's got these places on it, and like I want all-terrain wheels, and I have this drawer thing with donations, and like I have like this whole cart, and like probably like anytime I need to stop with the harmonium, I'm gonna push the button and Prabhupada's playing in the background while I get associated. Like I got it like all figured out. I'm like, oh, and I want to place like a little platform for the harmonium, and a strong hook for a mridanga to hang, and a way to cushion the mridanga, when I roll the cart. And I just like have this whole cart decked out, and I'm like, I don't need anybody. Anyway, it was totally transformative. Nico was there, and he's heard some of this story. I feel like you would see, but yeah.
Nice.
I thought I'd share that.
Thank you for sharing. It's exactly what we were speaking about today. It's so connected. Like, I saw you just as you were leaving, and what I felt is like those two are surrendered. Those two are committed, surrendered. They don't care if they are just the two of them, and for 4 hours they are going on Harinam Sankirtan. And I didn't know about your despondency. You were despondent. You were feeling like, oh, I really love to be with my peers. I really love our community to go out and
be all together, 10 people, and we have so much power to transform the world, to transform Gainesville, to make a difference in the world. You were in that mood of the preacher. The preacher's mood is like, yeah, let's make a difference. Let's change the world. Let's like yesterday we were speaking about the ultimate welfare activity and activist activities. And you're in that mood. And for you, when you're in the street, when you chant Hare Krishna, you're in a park, and you reach out and you distribute lollipops and you distribute books. This is where you connect with Lord Chaitanya. You're completely in your water. It's like your water. And you want more of it, and you want more with your community, and you want to be able to go on it. And so you were feeling excited and surrendered and committed and despondent at the same time, because you wish that the people will be piling in your car, and that maybe even the trunk will be full of people, and you will be against the law driving with 10 people in your car, but you will do it anyway. And then Krishna saw your sincerity. Krishna saw your determination, saw your desire to, and he reciprocated with you by bringing a microphone in front of your mouth when you were just singing and not expecting anything, surrendered. And then all those devotees and cradled you in the Sankirtan party with 10 people and more chanting Hare Krishna in Depot Park. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah. And then your meditation, day and night meditation, is a Sankirtan cart. That's, what better meditation? You can go back to Godaji with that. If at the time of death, if Damayanti is thinking of like where to put the Bhagavad Gita, where to put the harmonium, where to put the lollipop and put Prabhupada, at the time of death, if that's where your mind is, that's where you're going to go. Like with the biggest Sankirtan movement in our universe, maybe you will join Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement in Navadvip. Yes, that's very inspiring. Thank you. Maybe we can just start a Padayatra. Give up everything. We just buy a little cart and deities and 2 ox cart, and we just walk. Let's go to Los Angeles. Let's start now and go to Los Angeles.
I think he's already going. Maybe by car.
Which not Padayatra. Yes. Anyway, thank you for sharing. Very beautiful sharing and inspiring. And so exactly, the Lord is in charge. The Lord creates all situation. We maintain his devotees. If we have desire for service, like he fulfills the desire of Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, but how much more he is happy to fulfill the desire of his devotees for service. For our desires to preach and to spread the holy name and to change the life of people, is there. He's going to fulfill those desires. Yes.
I just want to say how quickly, just how moved and involved Damayanti right now.
And I couldn't help but being who I am when she was describing this cart, though. I'm thinking, let's get a prototype built. Let's mass produce them. We all need this cart.
Yeah.
Mass selling, making the cart according to Damayanti, and then mass selling.
Mass
Each
produce.
devotee doesn't think like, when is the next Harinam? Because that's the training, is like to wait. Like, when is the temple is going to organize the next Harinam? But then we build like a cart according to Damayanti's desire, and then we have a full like manual. No, you don't need to wait for the temple to organize. You can just go on your own and see what's happened. Malini was doing that. She did that. She's still doing that. She go on her own. She sits on the floor in the middle of Prague and she'd sing Hare Krishna, and what's the problem?
And then there's a book where they can learn how to communicate and step into someone's world. And it's the essence of preaching.
That's the essence of preaching.
It's part of our modern tradition, beginning like with Prabhupada, like just showing up and talking.
Yeah.
And then back in those early days, you had some of those senior disciples. That's the way it was. Like they would
That's what he
just
did.
show up on a college campus with a pair of kartals and sit down. That's kind of part of the modern.
Yeah, the Hare Krishna explosion in Europe was because of one day it was Yamuna, Gaudas, and I think they were not all the 6, but some of the 6, I think they were in Trafalgar Square in London, and they were doing like a small arena with just 4 to 6 people, small. And George Harrison passed by. And then like, of course they had the intention, they wanted to meet George Harrison and all that, but that was one of the first contact when they kind of started to move forward. And from that there was a big explosion. All of a sudden there was thousands and thousands of devotees all over Europe, and there was like the on the radio, in the bus, radio everywhere. The hit was the Hare Krishna mantra and Govindam prayer, and just from the desire of the devotee to be on Harinam Sankirtan. Yeah, Prabhupada and his followers. That's how they created the whole movement. Yeah, and I agree with Damayanti. I think like it's really beneficial for devotees to regularly go on Harinam, like at least once a week. Yeah, really, myself, I feel despondent. Like, I want to do that. Yeah, like once a week, going out, because that's where we meet Lord Chaitanya. That's what Lord Chaitanya is. Lord Chaitanya is God. He is Krishna. He is Krishna. What he comes here to do? Harinam Sankirtan. So when we do Harinam Sankirtan, we associate with Lord Chaitanya directly. We are in his pastime. Some people, they want to imitate the pastime of the gopis, or what is that? But Lord Chaitanya is completely in the pastime of the gopis. Is the combined connection of Radha and Krishna. And what he does?
Hare Krishna. So there was a chat. I was told there was a chat. So I'm going to read the chat. I didn't see any hands. I still don't see any hands. Material independence to spiritual dependence. Thank you, Parampara. Damayanti, you are so loved by Krishna. That's from Kelly to Damayanti. Yeah, she is. And we all are, like Vidura said, we all receive the love of Krishna. Krishna loves us more deeply than we ever will love ourselves. Thank you, Bhaktin Kelly, and thank you, Parampara Prabhu. Dawu Prabhu, you have your hand raised. You just raised your hand, Dawu Prabhu? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even myself, I've been telling Kim, but because my main thing has always been prasadam, so I've been going over to the tennis matches because I always like to watch them. And in fact, 11 years ago, when they were both national champions, I cooked a full feast for all the women's team members and then one for the men's team. And so anyhow, I'm still going over there, and like I try and find people, and it's wonderful. It just keeps me alive. Because like I just went up to some older lady with a little doggy watching. I'd never seen her before, and I said, "Are you vegetarian?" And she said she was. In fact, she'd eaten lunch in the Hare Krishnas back in the 70s. And then her daughter also became vegetarian and ate after I was there, but also on campus. And she took a samosa and some chutney and halva. And it was just, I don't know. For me, this is how I'm getting my nectar, my connection. So I'm regularly going and regularly just trying to find anybody to give some prasadam to. And it's nice. So I just want to throw that out.
So inspiring. And Lord Chaitanya, of course, he was doing Harinam Sankirtan and Prashadam. So much Prashadam in Lord Chaitanya's movement. So much Prashadam in like the kitchen religion of Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Dawa. I'm so inspired to know that you're making samosa, chutney, and halva to distribute at the tennis court. I'm thinking maybe I should start playing tennis. Because I know you're cooking, so.
Yeah, very well.
Hare Krishna, very inspiring. All glories to Lord Chaitanya. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Grand Entourage Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.